Commander Vex'thor stood before the great council of the Kraxon Empire, his chrome-plated exoskeleton gleaming under the 7 artificial suns of their throne world. If there was ever a perfect specimen of alien bioengineering, Vex'thor was it. Standing at precisely 2.47 meters tall, because apparently the Kraxon believed in extremely specific measurements, he was the pride of their warrior breeding program. Supreme Leader's Vex'thor's voice resonated through the chamber, with the exact frequency calculated to inspire maximum awe. I have achieved perfection in all 2,749 forms of combat in known space. He paused for dramatic effect, something his public speaking enhancement chip suggested would be appropriate. I am ready to challenge the humans. One of the council members, looking like a cross between a praying mantis and a filing cabinet, made a sound that might have been a snort. Are you certain you wish to waste your talents on such primitive beings? Their greatest achievement this cycle was inventing a self-heating coffee mug that also tells jokes. With respect, Supreme Leader Vex'thor responded, that is precisely why we must challenge them now. Their chaos must be contained before they accidentally discover something truly dangerous, like self-cooling coffee mugs. The council chambers erupted in horrified gasps. The very thought of temperature-controlling beverage containers sent shivers down their perfectly engineered spines. Meanwhile, on Earth, the UN Security Council was having what could generously be described as a moment. Let me get this straight, Secretary General Rodriguez pinched the bridge of his nose, staring at the holographic message floating above the conference table. The most advanced warrior species in the galaxy wants to settle Earth's fate with a one-on-one fight. The British representative was already on her 4th cup of tea. It seems they've been watching our entertainment broadcasts. They're particularly concerned about something called WWE SmackDown and believe it to be our primary method of conflict resolution. Well, the French representative shrugged, could be worse. They could have watched our political debates. The Chinese representative raised an eyebrow. The message says their champion has mastered every known form of combat in the galaxy. They've engineered him to be the perfect warrior. Yes, the Russian representative grinned, but did they engineer him to handle Florida Man? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Kraxon Empire had spent millennia perfecting their bioengineering, creating the ultimate warrior through careful selection, genetic manipulation, and technological enhancement. Commander Vex'thor was their masterpiece, a being who had never known defeat, whose every movement was calculated to microsecond precision, whose combat algorithms could process 1 million potential scenarios per second. What they hadn't counted on was humanity's secret weapon, pure, unfiltered, weapons-grade chaos. The Kraxon have given us one standard lunar cycle to choose our champion, Rodriguez announced, reading from the holographic message. They've included a list of their warrior's achievements. Apparently he once defeated an entire army using only his left pinky finger, which, I might add, is detachable and programmable as a heat-seeking missile. Impressive, muttered the German representative, but can he handle someone who puts pineapple on pizza? The Security Council descended into another heated debate about pizza toppings, completely forgetting about the alien threat for a good 20 minutes. Eventually, Rodriguez had to bang his gavel, which he'd specially ordered with a built-in air horn for exactly these situations to bring order back to the chamber. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, we need to find someone so unpredictable, so completely outside the realm of logical combat, that no amount of alien bioengineering could possibly prepare for them. We need someone who doesn't just think outside the box, we need someone who doesn't even believe boxes exist. The American representative slowly raised his hand, a manic grin spreading across his face. Sir, I believe I know exactly who we need. Lieutenant Jasper Jazz O'Malley's personnel file hit the UN Security Council's holographic display with all the grace of a drunk peacock attempting ballet. Warning labels, actual physical sticky notes had been attached to the tablet containing his records. One of them simply read why. Ladies and gentlemen, General Thompson began. Meet the man who once won a tank battle by convincing the enemy he was a traveling circus that had gotten very, very lost. The file began scrolling automatically, displaying incident after glorious incident. Psychological evaluation excerpt 47. Subject continues to insist that combat effectiveness is directly proportional to the number of rubber ducks deployed on the battlefield. When questioned about this strategy, subject responded, have you ever seen a rubber duck lose a war? Evaluator was unable to refute this logic. Is this the man who reprogrammed all the combat drones to perform synchronized swimming? The Chinese representative asked, leaning forward with interest. The very same, Thompson confirmed. He claimed it was a legitimate tactical advantage because, and I quote, "Nobody expects the butterfly stroke in a firefight." The file continued. The incident report Operation Desert Shenanigans. Lieutenant O'Malley successfully neutralized enemy communications by broadcasting nothing but kazoo covers of death metal songs for 72 straight hours. Enemy forces surrendered, citing an unbearable crisis of musical taste and severe emotional confusion. Commendation and disciplinary notice same event for exceptional creativity in resolving hostage situation using only a jar of pickles, 3 rubber bands, and an interpretive dance routine based on the history of tax legislation. Note, while effective, subject is reminded that making hostile forces laugh so hard they drop their weapons is not a recognized tactical maneuver. The chaos factor Rodriguez mused, reading the nickname that appeared in bold letters across the top of the file. How did he earn that one? Thompson's eye twitched slightly. That would be the pancake incident. The room collectively leaned forward. The what? During a critical wilderness survival exercise, O'Malley managed to establish pancake supremacy over a local bear population. He now receives Christmas cards from 3 different bear families and has been officially recognized as their maple syrup overlord. More incidents scrolled past. Training exercise report. Lieutenant O'Malley defeated entire opposing force by convincing them that he had successfully weaponized interpretive modern dance. Supporting evidence includes enemy commander's statement, "Have you seen what he can do with the Macarena? We're not paid enough for this." Strategic assessment. Subject demonstrates unprecedented ability to generate chaos theory in practical applications. When asked to explain his success rate, subject replied, "Sometimes you have to think so far outside the box that you forget boxes were ever invented. I personally prefer to think inside a dodecahedron of possibility." "But is he stable?" the French representative asked, watching as a video played of O'Malley leading a conga line. Through what appeared to be an active minefield, all participants survived. Morale improved 300%. Thompson shrugged. Define stable. He once negotiated peace between 2 warring factions by organizing a competitive sock puppet theater festival. Both sides are now touring together off Broadway. "And you think he can beat the alien's perfect warrior?" Rodriguez asked. "Sir, I think he's the only one who can. Vex'thor is programmed to counter every known combat style in the galaxy. But O'Malley..." Thompson gestured to a final video showing the lieutenant teaching a squad of elite Marines to river dance while defusing bombs. "O'Malley doesn't have a style. He has an anti-style. He's what happens when you let chaos theory take human form and give it access to military resources." The British representative set down her 15th cup of tea. "Where is he now?" Thompson pressed a button, bringing up a live feed. The Security Council watched in collective silence as Lieutenant O'Malley appeared to be teaching a masterclass in tactical origami to a group of Special Forces operators. The paper cranes they were folding had somehow improved their marksmanship by 40%. "Well," Rodriguez said finally, "at least we know one thing." "What's that?" "The aliens won't see this coming." "Hell, I'm looking right at it, and I still don't see it coming." As if to prove the point, O'Malley chose that moment to demonstrate how a properly folded paper swan could be used to disable a main battle tank. Somehow it worked. The Kraxon Empire's intelligence analysts spent 3 full cycles trying to decipher Lieutenant O'Malley's combat strategy. They failed spectacularly, primarily because they kept looking for one. Supreme leaders. The chief analyst's hologram flickered as he presented his findings. "We've reviewed the human champion's training footage. He appears to be preparing for combat by teaching his support team to juggle quantum physics textbooks while reciting ancient Earth soap opera dialogues backwards." The council shifted uncomfortably on their bioengineered thrones. One of them cleared their throat equivalent. "And this improves combat efficiency." Unknown supreme leaders. But his team's understanding of particle physics has improved by 47%, and they've somehow started a popular streaming series called Days of Our Quantum Lives. Meanwhile, in Earth's most advanced training facility, Jazz O'Malley was implementing what he called Operation Confuser-Tron 9000. "Listen up, people," he announced to his support team, while balanced upside down on one finger. "Today we're going to master the art of tactical interpretive yodeling. The aliens think they know every combat style in the galaxy. Let's give them something that will make their probability computers cry." His requisition list had already caused 3 supply officers to request early retirement. The combat supplies requisition form. 1,000 rubber ducks must be squeaky, combat grade. 17 kazoos tuned to the frequency of cosmic background radiation. 1 industrial-sized barrel of glitter tactical grade, biodegradable. 42 pairs of mismatched socks preferably with quantum entanglement properties. A complete collection of 20th century disco hits. 1 authentic Hawaiian shirt for psychological warfare purposes. 3 metric tons of bubble wrap combat reinforced. A single chopstick, the other one would be too predictable. The alien betting pools were in chaos. The Xylaxians, known for their prophetic abilities, refused to place bets because every time they tried to see the outcome, they got a migraine and a strange craving for Earth's pineapple pizza. The Galactic Sportsbook had to create a new category, outcomes so improbable they loop back around to possible. In the diplomatic sector, tensions were rising. The Kraxon ambassadors had formally protested when they discovered O'Malley had requested to bring a rubber chicken as his secondary weapon. It violates no combat regulations, the human diplomatic team pointed out. That's because no one in the history of galactic warfare has ever needed to specify rules about poultry-based weaponry, the Kraxon ambassador shouted, their perfect composure cracking for the first time in recorded history. Back in the training facility, O'Malley was perfecting his signature move, the inconceivable infinity loop with a twist of lemon. So one of his trainers ventured carefully. What exactly does this accomplish? Confusion, Jenkins. Pure weapons-grade confusion. O'Malley demonstrated the move, which somehow involved moonwalking in a fractal pattern while humming the theme from Jaws in 7-part harmony. With himself. When your enemy's combat computer tries to analyze this, it'll be like dividing by 0 but funnier. The training footage, leaked to various alien species, had fascinating effects. The warrior race known as the Garuk, famous for their stoic nature, had to invent new words for bewilderment. The quantum probability monks of Betelgeuse VII declared O'Malley either a Grand Master or a complete lunatic, then decided both answers were simultaneously correct. A week before the combat, O'Malley submitted his final preparation report. Combat Readiness Assessment. Traditional combat readiness unknown. Chaos generation capability maximum. Probability of victory P%. Additional notes have successfully taught squad to perform Bohemian Rhapsody using only tactical hand signals and interpretive eyebrow movements. Enemy morale expected to be affected in ways science cannot explain. The Kraxon Empire's final intelligence report was equally memorable. The analysis of human champion. Combat style error, divide by 0. Tactical pattern error, fractal overflow. Threat assessment error, does not compute. Psychological profile error, artificial intelligence requests therapy. Recommendation, consider recruiting more analysts specialized in absurdist philosophy. At the final pre-combat briefing, General Thompson had one last question for O'Malley. Son, are you absolutely sure about this approach? O'Malley, who was currently teaching a potted plant to understand complex battle strategies through interpersonal dance, looked up with a grin that made quantum uncertainty look stable. Sir, their champion is engineered to be perfect. But perfection has a fatal flaw: it can't comprehend imperfection. They've created a warrior who can counter every logical move in the universe, and I don't plan to make a single logical move. When was the last time you saw logic win a dance-off? The general watched as O'Malley resumed his conversation with the plant, which was now somehow showing a better grasp of tactical warfare than most seasoned commanders. May whatever gods exist help the aliens, Thompson muttered, because nothing in their perfect universe could have prepared them for this. The neutral moon base of Europa 7 had been transformed into the galaxy's most prestigious arena. Crystalline dome structures housed representatives from over 300 species, all gathered to witness what was being called the combat of contradictions by galactic media. The arena itself was a masterpiece of engineering, a perfect circle 500 meters in diameter, its surface automatically adjusting to any combat style. Quantum-stabilized force fields ensured spectator safety, which, given O'Malley's reputation, had been triple reinforced. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of indeterminate or fluctuating existence, the announcer's voice echoed through the dome, welcome to the battle that will decide Earth's fate. The alien spectators buzzed with anticipation. The hive mind of Betelgeuse Beta was taking bets at odds so complex they required 11-dimensional math to calculate. The quantum observers of Rigel had split into multiple timeline versions of themselves just to watch from different angles. Commander Vex'thor's entrance was exactly what you'd expect from the galaxy's perfect warrior. He descended from his ship in a beam of precisely calibrated light, his chrome armor reflecting the stars in mathematically perfect patterns. Each step he took made exactly the same sound, spaced at intervals that classical composers would have wept over. And then there was Jazz O'Malley's entrance. The human champion moonwalked into the arena while playing Flight of the Bumblebee on a kazoo. He wore his regulation combat armor, but had somehow bedazzled it with holographic glitter that shifted colors in response to nearby beings' confusion levels. Currently, it was putting on a light show that threatened to induce seizures in several species. His equipment loadout caused the Kraxon Empire's combat analysts to require immediate medication. A rubber chicken holstered like a sidearm, combat boots that squeaked with every step apparently intentionally, a backpack that seemed to be humming the bass line from Another One Bites the Dust. 7 rubber ducks arranged in what he claimed was a tactically advantageous conga line. The single chopstick, now decorated with tiny LED lights that spelled out "Why So Serious" in 17 alien languages. The official combat observer, a member of the ancient and respected arbitration species, floated down to go over the rules. They had specifically updated the rulebook for this occasion, adding an unprecedented number of clauses that began with "the human champion must not." The combat will proceed according to galactic tradition, the observer announced, their translucent form glowing with authority. No external weapons beyond those approved. No assistance from spectators. No unauthorized reality manipulation. O'Malley raised his hand. Does dancing count as reality manipulation? Because sometimes when I really get going, quantum physics gets a bit ... funky. The observer spent several moments consulting their rulebook before responding. Just try to keep the fundamental forces of the universe relatively stable. Vex'thor stood perfectly still, his combat computers analyzing every aspect of his opponent. This proved to be a mistake, as the computers began producing error messages in languages that hadn't been invented yet. Your strategy is incomprehensible, Vex'thor finally stated, his voice modulated to project perfect confidence. Thanks, O'Malley beamed. I've been working on that. Did you know that if you approach combat from exactly 17.3 degrees northwest of logic, you can make game theory cry? In the VIP observation pod, General Thompson watched with a mixture of pride and terror. God help us all, he muttered. Which one, asked a nearby alien theologian, genuinely curious. At this point, whichever one's in charge of controlled chaos. The arena's environmental systems began adjusting the gravity, atmosphere and temperature to optimal combat conditions. O'Malley responded by doing a small jig that somehow made the gravity hiccup in confusion. Combat begins in 10 seconds, the observer announced. Vex'thor assumed a perfect combat stance, one developed through millennia of martial arts evolution. O'Malley assumed what appeared to be a cross between a tango position and someone who had just stepped on a Lego brick. The tension in the arena was palpable. Several psychic species in the audience had to shut down their abilities entirely to avoid being overwhelmed by the sheer absurdity of the situation. Begin. The moment combat commenced, Vex'thor launched into a perfect execution of the 7-star death strike, a move that had ended wars on 12 different planets. His chrome-plated form became a blur of precise, lethal motion. O'Malley responded by doing the Macarena. Vex'thor's attack missed completely as his combat computers tried to calculate the tactical advantage of rhythmic arm movements synchronized to 1990s pop music. By the time they concluded there wasn't one, O'Malley had switched to the chicken dance while humming the theme from Mission Impossible. Your movements serve no combat purpose, Vex'thor declared, launching a series of quantum-enhanced strikes. Oh yeah, O'Malley ducked under a punch by dropping into a split. Why did the quantum physicist cross the road? Vex'thor's combat systems automatically engaged his tactical conversation protocols. This is irrel. Because he was both on this side and that side, O'Malley completed a spin move that somehow incorporated 3 different types of ballroom dancing. Get it? Because quantum superposition. The perfect warrior's eye twitched. His neural processors detected a joke but couldn't determine the strategic value. Meanwhile, O'Malley had produced one of his rubber ducks and was using it as a puppet to narrate the fight. And here we see the chrome dome champion attempting the famous spiral death touch. The duck squeaked in a surprisingly good David Attenborough impression. A fascinating technique, though not nearly as interesting as the mating habits of the lesser-spotted space penguin. In the audience, the hive mind of Betelgeuse Beta was developing a migraine. The quantum observers had accidentally split into so many timeline variants that they needed a spreadsheet to keep track of themselves. Vex'thor initiated his secondary combat protocols, transforming his right arm into a plasma cannon. Your irregular patterns cannot. Hey, what do you call an alien with 3 eyes who loves Earth music? O'Malley interrupted, sliding under the plasma bolt while somehow managing to moonwalk. A Justin Tri-Aber fan. The plasma cannon misfired as Vex'thor's systems tried to process the pun. Error messages cascaded through his neural network. Error, pun analysis failed. Error, tactical value not found. Error, humor cores experiencing critical malfunction. O'Malley seized the moment of confusion to break into what he called his special move 47, the discombobulating disco inferno. His armor's holographic glitter reached strobing intensities that made several psychic species in the audience require sunglasses for their third eyes. Your combat style is invalid, Vex'thor shouted, his perfect composure showing the first cracks. The database contains no record of tactical glitter deployment. Nobody expects tactical glitter, O'Malley replied cheerfully, now doing what appeared to be a combination of Irish step dancing and Tai Chi, just like nobody expects. The Spanish Inquisition. In the command center, General Thompson watched as 3 different alien species had to look up Spanish Inquisition in their cultural databases, only to become even more confused. Vex'thor deployed his ultimate close combat configuration, his armor sprouting blades aligned to strike at every known vital point in humanoid anatomy. Your chaos cannot defeat perfection. That's what the toast said to the toaster, O'Malley replied, somehow managing to dodge every blade while setting up his rubber ducks in a formation that looked suspiciously like a synchronized swimming routine. But you know what they say about well-laid plans. They often succeed due to careful preparation and execution. Vex'thor attempted to calculate a response. Nah, they usually go about as well as a chocolate teapot in a sauna. O'Malley pulled out his rubber chicken, which had somehow been approved by the Weapons Committee. Speaking of which, tactical poultry deployment initiated. The rubber chicken, when squeezed, emitted a sound that shouldn't have been possible according to the laws of physics. Several nearby quantum particles threw up their probability waves in disgust. Vex'thor's combat computers began producing smoke. Their attempt to analyze the tactical applications of a squeaking rubber chicken while its wielder performed what appeared to be a one-man reenactment of Swan Lake had caused several logic circuits to file for immediate retirement. Warning combat prediction algorithms failing. Vex'thor's internal diagnostics blared, unable to establish pattern recognition. Suggested course of action: request technical support and/or existential counseling. O'Malley, now doing the time warp while reciting Sun Tzu's Art of War backwards in pig Latin, grinned. Having trouble computing the tactical advantage of interpretive dance warfare. There is no tactical advantage. Vex'thor's voice modulation cracked, showing actual emotion for the first time in his existence. Your movements defy every known principle of combat. Exactly. O'Malley executed a perfect pirouette while his rubber ducks performed what could only be described as a flash mob. If you can't figure out what I'm doing, how can you counter it? I call it the O'Malley uncertainty principle. The more precisely you calculate my position, the less sense my momentum makes. The Perfect Warrior's combat systems were now running diagnostic programs on their diagnostic programs. Vex'thor had been engineered to counter every fighting style in the galaxy, but his creators had never considered the possibility of someone treating combat like an improvisational jazz performance with occasional puppet shows. In the VIP box, an alien combat analyst turned to General Thompson. Is this how humans usually fight? Thompson watched as O'Malley began teaching his rubber chicken to tango. No, this is actually one of his more conventional approaches. The analyst needed several moments to process this information, during which time O'Malley had somehow managed to turn the battle into a one-man Broadway musical about the futility of perfect combat algorithms. Next up on Dancing with the Stars and various plasma-based lifeforms, O'Malley announced to no one in particular, "We'll see if our chrome-plated friend here can handle the Chaos Conga." As the battle entered its crucial phase, something remarkable began to happen. O'Malley's apparently random actions started forming a pattern, not one that made sense, but one that made nonsense with such precision that it practically formed its own logic. You see, O'Malley explained while performing what he called the Hitchhiker's Guide to Combat, a series of movements that seemed to answer the question of life, the universe, and everything with interpretive dance. The problem with perfect programming is it expects everything to make sense. Vex'thor's combat systems were now operating at 200% capacity, trying to predict O'Malley's next move. This proved impossible because O'Malley's next move was to recreate the entire Thriller dance routine, while his rubber ducks provided backup choreography. Error, invalid combat reference. Vex'thor's systems blared, unable to correlate Michael Jackson moves with known martial arts. That's because you never learned the ancient earth art of O'Malley struck a pose, his glitter-enhanced armor catching the light dramatically, pop culture combat. In the stands, alien scholars frantically began taking notes as O'Malley demonstrated his signature moves. The Indiana Jones doesn't have time for this sidestep. The Luke, I am your father force push now with jazz hands, the Princess Bride inconceivable counterattack, and his piece de resistance the nobody puts baby in a corner roundhouse kick. The quantum observers had given up trying to track the probability streams and were now just enjoying the show. Several had started a wave in the audience, which, due to their quantum nature, managed to happen both clockwise and counterclockwise simultaneously. Vex'thor's perfect training was becoming his greatest weakness. His combat algorithms desperately tried to find logical patterns in O'Malley's movements, not realizing that the absence of pattern was the pattern. Processing error, Vex'thor announced, his chrome finish actually developing stress marks. Unable to compute tactical advantage of, did you just quote Mean Girls while executing a disarmament technique? Stop trying to make combat math happen, O'Malley replied, seamlessly transitioning into what appeared to be a combination of kung fu and the electric slide. It's not going to happen. The alien audiences watched in horrified fascination as O'Malley's rubber chicken began conducting his rubber ducks in a rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody, which somehow served as a perfectly timed distraction for a series of devastating combat moves. Is this the real fight? Is this just fantasy? O'Malley sang while executing a perfect combination of capoeira and the robot. Caught in a combat slide, no escape from the choreography. Vex'thor's targeting systems crashed completely when trying to predict the tactical applications of Queen lyrics in hand-to-hand combat. His perfect stunts faltered as his neural networks attempted to reboot, only to be confronted with O'Malley performing the entire evolution of dance while quoting Sun Tzu. In the command center, General Thompson watched as the alien combat analysts tried to make sense of what they were seeing. One of them had started banging their head against the wall, creating a rhythm that O'Malley somehow incorporated into his next attack sequence. The human's movements, one analyst whispered in horror, they're simultaneously random and precise. It's like he's achieved quantum superiority through sheer absurdity. Vex'thor, the perfect warrior, the pride of Kraxon engineering, found himself facing an opponent who treated the laws of combat like polite suggestions. His every perfect counter was met with moves that shouldn't exist, tactics that couldn't work, and yet somehow did. Your combat style, Vex'thor managed, his vocal processors glitching, it defies all logic. Exactly, O'Malley grinned, now performing what he called the Monty Python Ministry of Silly Walks self-defense technique. Logic is predictable. Perfect logic is perfectly predictable. But this, he gestured to his rubber ducks, now arranged in a formation resembling the Fibonacci sequence, if the Fibonacci sequence had gotten dizzy. This is humanity's secret weapon, weaponized whimsy. The alien audiences watched as O'Malley's seemingly random strategy revealed itself to be something else entirely, not order disguised as chaos, but chaos so pure it horseshoed its way back around to effectiveness. His rubber chicken had somehow achieved a higher state of consciousness and was now giving philosophical lectures to confused spectators. Vex'thor's perfect combat programming, designed to counter every logical style of fighting in the galaxy, was completely unprepared for someone whose battle strategy seemed to be make interpretive dance a valid combat technique through sheer conviction. The final moments of the battle would be discussed in alien military academies for centuries to come, though no two accounts would ever agree on exactly what happened. Most historians settled for describing it as the moment chaos achieved sentience and decided to take up competitive dance. O'Malley, surrounded by his now philosophically enlightened rubber ducks, launched into what he called his grand finale, the chaos theory tango. His combat-grade glitter reached such levels of tactical sparkle that several quantum physics textbooks spontaneously rewrote themselves. Vex'thor, the perfect warrior, experienced what could only be described as a blue screen of death. His combat computers, trying to process O'Malley's final move, a combination of the hokey-pokey and advanced theoretical physics, simply gave up and displayed error 404, combat logic not found. The thing about perfection, O'Malley explained, as his rubber chicken performed a surprisingly moving interpretive dance about the futility of predictability, is that it's perfectly vulnerable to imperfection. With that, O'Malley executed his masterpiece, a move that combined every dad joke, meme and pop culture reference he'd used throughout the battle into one gravity-defying display of controlled chaos. Vex'thor's systems, attempting to calculate the tactical significance of a rubber duck conga line performing "Never Gonna Give You Up" finally crashed completely. The perfect warrior collapsed, his chrome armor displaying an actual spinning wheel of death. The Galactic Combat Federation immediately reclassified humans from mostly harmless to approach with extreme caution and maybe bring snacks. The Kraxon Empire, in their official surrender document, included a formal request to never, ever have to try understanding human combat tactics again. O'Malley's promotion ceremony was unique in military history. His new title, Grand Admiral of Strategic Chaos, was created specifically because no existing military rank quite covered what he did. His rubber chicken received an honorary doctorate in quantum mechanics from 3 different alien universities. But the real twist came during his acceptance speech. "You know. And," he said, standing at the podium while his rubber ducks performed a synchronized swimming routine in zero gravity, "there's an old Earth saying in chaos, there is profit or wait." Maybe that was the Ferengi. Anyway, the point is, sometimes the best way to defeat perfect logic is to be so illogical that you loop back around to a higher form of logic. He then proceeded to reveal complex mathematical formulas showing how each seemingly random action had been precisely calculated to cause maximum confusion in bioengineered combat systems. His rubber chicken had apparently been collecting data the entire time. General Thompson, watching from the audience, finally understood. Son of A, he wasn't being random at all. He weaponized unpredictability itself. The Kraxon Empire immediately classified the entire incident as that thing we don't talk about. Meanwhile, O'Malley's rubber ducks were invited to give a TED talk on the quantum mechanics of comedy in combat. As for O'Malley himself, he was last seen teaching a masterclass on tactical interpretive dance to a joint session of the Galactic Senate, his combat-grade glitter now standard issue in 3 different space fleets. Some say he's still out there, somewhere, making the universe question its own sanity. On purpose.